Hi guys and welcome back. Now in one of our previous videos we talked about how getting a job offer from a Canadian employer and subsequently a work permit was one of the fastest routes to Canadian immigration, but this is easier said than done.
Understandably, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, how do I get a Canadian job offer? In essence, you need to convince an employer that they should employ you over a Canadian citizen or resident. Of course, this becomes a lot simpler if you are particularly skilled, have a huge amount of experience, or are in a very sought-after occupation. But how does the average person go about securing a job offer in Canada, especially if they aren't in Canada?
The first thing is to assess your skills and qualifications and research which provinces in Canada are most interested in those skills. For example, if all your work experience is in an occupation which is already hugely oversubscribed in a particular province, it's unlikely that applying for jobs as a foreign national there will be much use.
So to give you an idea of the range of potential occupations, the most in-demand jobs in Canada at the moment include web developers, HR managers, software developers, electrical engineers, vets, nurses, and human resource and recruitment officers. However, manual jobs such as welders and labourers are also in the top 10, closely followed by administrative assistants and truck drivers.
So once you've found out whether your skills are desirable in Canada, you can decide whether or not it would be worth applying to potential employers. If not, you could consider retraining or gain some work experience in a different, more in-demand field.
If you are not in a rush to move to Canada, going back to college to retrain or add an extra qualification to your skill set, or even just a year's work experience in a new field, may make all the difference and could even secure you a provincial nomination as a sought-after employee. Our next tip would be to look at your CV or resume, and if needs be, pay for a professional CV writer to buff it up for you. If your CV is tailored to a British or an Indian or a French market, for example, you may benefit from spending some time researching what a Canadian resume looks like and rewriting yours to target the Canadian labour market.
Of course, no two CVs look the same, but bear in mind that what appeals to employers in your home country may not have the same effect in Canada. By this we mean pay attention to not only the content, but the font, the size of the text, how many pages you use, and in what order the information is laid out.
As a very basic start, you must make sure that you include all your personal details, such as your name, your address, your phone number, your email address, and also any usernames for social media platforms. The minimum information you should include on your CV is your education, any professional qualifications and achievements, your work history, and your professional experience.
Regardless of your field of expertise, you will be starting at a distinct disadvantage by being a non-Canadian citizen. So you really need your CV to stand out in order for you to show the employer that you are a better choice than any local applicants.
So the next tip is that sending out the same CV to all employers will gain 0 results. You need to research the potential employers, read their websites, learn about their employees, their history, how long the company has been in existence, what are their ethics, what's their mission statement. You need to decide whether the company is the right fit for you and be able to explain why the company should hire you.
When an employer is reading your CV, they need to feel that you are applying for their job, not just a job. So read the job description carefully and make sure you include the job requirements on your CV or cover letter and tailor your CV to match each individual company you apply to.
Our next piece of advice would be not to tackle this alone. Your chances of success will be so much higher if you apply for positions through a Canadian employment agency or an employment website or a Canadian headhunter.
These agencies essentially act as the middleman and have so much more knowledge than you or us about job openings and opportunities. Depending on what you're looking for, agencies and headhunters can connect job vacancies with job seekers such as you.
An excellent place to start would be by going to a headhunting website, and we'll put some links in the description box below. Through these sites, you can select your province, your city of choice, your area of expertise, and be instantly linked with headhunters who can find you a job.
Another great place to begin your job search is the official Job Bank of Canada, which can be found on the Government of Canada website. We'll put the link in the description box below. This website lists all the up-to-date jobs available across Canada and is an incredible resource. I'd recommend having a look through all these websites just to give you an idea of what is available and what skills different provinces are looking for.
So when you are applying from outside of Canada, of course, face-to-face interviews are not possible. But this doesn't mean that you can't network and start making contacts. Be aware that the vast majority of jobs in Canada are never advertised publicly. They are either advertised internally only or simply never advertised at all. So don't simply rely on applying to advertised positions.
You might have to take matters into your own hands and really put a lot of time and effort into your search. Cold call companies that you think you'd like to work for. Send emails expressing your interest. Use networking sites like LinkedIn. Connect with others in the same field as you. Search for relevant groups on Facebook and follow people on Twitter. You never know where a connection might lead.
This may sound obvious, but you need to show employers that you are keen and willing. If you have a virtual interview, smile, be happy, be enthusiastic. It's so much more difficult to showcase your talents and your personality over Zoom, for example, so be over the top. Show the employer that you are someone they should hire and someone they won't forget.
Once you've sent out your CV or applied for a position, follow it up with a polite email the following week. This shows employers that you didn't just send out 20 CVs in the hope that someone would reply. You wrote to them with a purpose and you care about whether or not you get their job.
Finally, if you are already in Canada and looking for a job, and if your finances allow it, consider volunteering. This can provide you with some really great experience and will look very impressive to employers on your CV.
Okay, so we hope we've given you some pointers on how to start your job search in Canada. Have you applied for a job in Canada, or would you like to in the future? Tell us all about it. We love hearing your stories. And of course, hit subscribe before you go.